Black Cat Lounge is sponsored by Paranormal Oddities, the little store with the big heart, Dragonfly Art and Soul, Niagara, where the real ghosts of Lockport hang out, Wild Raven Candles for those magical times, Queen of Tarts, Metaphysical and Bake Shop. Hey, welcome everybody back to another edition of What Else? The Black Cat Lounge. You know what? If you're not here, where would you be? Probably you'd be drinking in some gin mill, hanging out, maybe with no pants. I don't know. I'm just, it could happen. It could happen. Not that it's ever happened to me. But anyway, listen, we have a great show for you tonight. First of all, though, we got to pay homage to a really great singer who has passed. Gordon Lightfoot, of course, passed yesterday. I think he was 83 years old. And, a lot of us in the States really weren't affected by him that much growing up. I know I was, because got to remember, I live close to the Canadian border and we have a lot of the Canadian culture here. So it is, he really was probably one of the last of the true troubadours from that era. So, I mean, he did well. He did well. He was a life well lived. And I have to tell you that he affected a lot of people. And it was probably one of the greatest things I've ever been able to go and listen to in my life. So anyway, we have some great, we have our British dignitary in here, Colette. How are you, Colette? I'm so glad that you stopped in today. And guys, listen, we got some really neat guests coming up this month, and I don't know if how I can kind of like let the cat out of the bag, but I believe it's going to be a UFO crypto month. That's the best way I can say it. I don't want to say the guests that we do have coming up, but today we have one of the premier guests about hauntings, about getting out there and working with a galactic intelligence. Probably one of the most positive voices I have ever had the chance to listen to. Probably one of the nicest people that I've ever met in the circuit. And a lot of people say, "Oh, Tim, you like everybody." No, I don't. I will tell you that right now. I do not. But this lady is phenomenal. She's an author. She's a speaker. Paranormal survivor. She's a galactic experiencer, which we're going to talk about today because I think it's really fascinating. And we're going to talk about some energy. And some of her books, well, I'll just tell you two of the books: House of Darkness, House of Light, the basis of the Conjuring series. And let me tell you something. If you like the Conjuring series, throw the DVDs out, buy the trilogy that she has written, because that is far more interesting, far more in-depth, and sometimes far more horrific than whatever they could put on the silver screen. I'll tell you that right now. The other book is A Wonder to Behold, Guideposts to Our Intergalactic Engagement with Humanity. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, and some ships out at sea, because we've got to remember about the Edmund Fitzgerald. Let's just welcome a good friend of mine. Probably, I don't even know how many years we've known each other. I'm kind of afraid. I didn't ever had hair, but I think I had a little color in my beard, but that's it. That's the only difference between Andrea Perron, good friend. Andrea, you beautiful thing, you. How are you, dear?
Well, sweetheart, how are you?
It's another day in paradise here. Rainy, but it's still paradise because, as everybody knows, I had the surgery, and I told you off the air, you look better now than you ever did because I can actually see you with both eyes now. So that's the important thing. You know, Andrea, when I first met you, we were really in the conjuring phase, and in the house and everything. I got to ask you something. Was it a natural evolution for you to go as someone who had experienced so much in Rhode Island at the house, the whole Bathsheba case, to go and be able to have this intensive, energetic communication with beings that are, well, I don't want to use aliens, and I don't like to use those words, but intellectual beings that are maybe interdimensional. Was it a natural transition for you? Was it something that you taught yourself to love? Is it something that kind of meshes together?
It was a supernatural transition for me. Uh, I wouldn't, some people might not believe this, but I wouldn't trade what I've experienced for anything else in the world.
Hmm.
The good, the bad, the ugly, the scary, the thrilling, the joyful, the wondrous, the all of it. I when we moved, I was only 12 years old when we moved into the house. Right after I turned 13, um, I had a sighting over the farm that was so profound and so intense that it was my personal paradigm shift. It changed everything that I thought about everything. And we were steeped in the midst of trying to come to terms with the fact that we were sharing that farmhouse with many souls. And we never knew what year it was. We never knew,
Hmm.
what era it was. We didn't know if we were running into somebody from colonial times. We didn't know, we didn't know. And it's the not knowing that can be so unnerving. But it was, albeit gradual, but it was definitely a decisive acceptance for me that we didn't live alone, that it was their house
Hmm.
first, that we needed to be respectful, and that I needed to try to be as cordial and acknowledging as possible, even with the cranky ones.
Hmm.
Bathsheba never even lived at that house. The movie The Conjuring, which is not based on my books, actually, it's based on the case files of Ed and Lorraine Warren. And yes, it was the first in a series
Right.
of
Right.
cases that the Warrens did. But it established the that specific part of the genre. The movie itself was so popular and so well received that I wouldn't be one of the bestsellers in this genre all these years later had it not been for that film. My books, as I've said many times, would just be languishing in obscurity, just like a million other books. Nobody would know it was because of that film that our real true story made its way out into the world in such an extraordinary way. And I think the real value of the books, there are literally teams around this country that will not let a new member join until they've read the trilogy
Well,
because
see,
they
I
feel
agree.
that it prepares people to become
Yes.
a paranormal investigator, researcher, and that it's in kind of a, a spooky and yet spiritual way of forewarning. Forewarned is forearmed, to how to interact, how to connect. But I'll tell you what, Tim, all the experiences, and I've talked to you for hours about this. I mean,
Hmm.
we have talked about for hours. I have glare on my glasses. It's pissing me off. All right. So,
But you were still looking fantastic. I'm
well,
just let you
thank
know
you,
that.
darling. Thank you. Oh, I can't see a thing. So if you send me a private message, just know. Well, you can't see a thing either. So it
No.
doesn't matter. Just don't send me any private messages and we're good. Although I've kept them close by in case,
Hey,
you know,
toss
okay,
John Zaffis in between,
I
within the three of us. None of us can see.
be a thing. And yet, the thing that is so weird, I can't read a menu in a restaurant, but I can look beyond the stratosphere and see vessels, intergalactic vessels. And they make their presence known to me in extraordinary ways. And in the last 5 to 6 years, we've known each other, by the way, for at least a decade. And in that
Yeah,
amount of
yeah.
time, bit by bit, piece by piece, question by question, interaction by interaction, we've gotten to know each other, and the culmination of the experiences that we've had and how they have transformed each one of us. So we always have the most interesting conversations about things sometimes very dark and deep, but also very uplifting and very hopeful and
Hmm.
very joyful and wondrous. My last book I've sold privately for the last few years, and through COVID, um, it's so intense and it's so extreme in some respects that I wasn't prepared, nor did I think the world was ready for it. So I
Hmm.
just sold it to my large circle of people who already got it, who already knew, who already understood. This is driving me nuts. I'm such a Libra. Oh my God, I'll walk into people's houses and be like, can I straighten your artwork on the wall? Don't be offended. I'm sure it was just an earthquake that did this. I mean, really. I can't help it. I cannot help it. Um,
I'm the same way. I'm the exact same way. I walk into some place, and if I do see frames that are just off a little bit,
just a
it
little
drives me insane. I know
insane.
it might be a little OCD with me, but I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, think. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah,
Told you
listen,
we were related.
you,
I told you we were. We have the same melodies. We have the same issues. And the thing is, I can see I have experiences
Mhm,
every single day. It doesn't matter what the weather conditions are. It doesn't matter if it's bright blue skies and sunshine or the dark of night. They know when I'm out there. They know how to. I'm at the house right now where I wrote House of
mhm.
Darkness, House of Light. In this house, at that desk, right there. Oh, well, and before it used to be right there, but then we moved it there because I was always in everybody's way. And I took over this house in terms of that project
Mhm.
and that corner, first there, then there, for 7 years. It took me 7 years to chronicle what happened in 10 at the time that we lived at the farm. And I don't blame the people who put the Conjuring together. I think they did a really good job for what their aim was, and that
I
was
agree. Yes,
to
yes.
tell a really spooky story, the best they could from the perspective of Ed and Lorraine Warren. Lorraine Warren is the one that said, I sense a spirit in this house. Her name is Bathsheba. And that could very well be because Bathsheba was at that farm. She was only lived only about a mile away. There were only a few homesteads. I'm sure everybody knew each other. There's even some historical record that her husband might have died on the Arnold property for some reason. I don't know if he was cutting wood and a tree fell on him. We don't know. We'll never know. To me, it doesn't matter who they were in life, that they still are in afterlife is the freaking miracle. But I also know that there is a point of correlation and integration between our galactic family, our intergalactic beings that are are present around us in numbers that even ufologists can't comprehend. The more they learn, the more they know, the more they wonder, the more they suspect that they might be wrong because how could this be?
Truth.
However,
Yes.
at, at the big thing at the press club in Washington several years ago, um, uh, I believe he has just passed away. Paul Hellyer, who's the former
Oh,
defense
yes.
minister of Canada,
Yes, yes, yes,
he
yes.
said that it had been documented that 57 different races have visited this planet or are cohabitating on it with us. And when I saw that, I wasn't there present live. When that happened, I was keeping a really low profile about this subject. But I was sitting there watching it on the computer, and I said, "No, Paul, it's 58. It's 58." No, and he didn't, obviously he didn't hear me, but in that moment that I saw that, I heard in my head the message came, "No, Paul, it's 58." I didn't come up with those words. It came through me. I was like,
Mhm.
"Okay, what just happened? What just happened?" And the messages have gotten more and more important and more profound as the years have gone by. I have had some exceedingly close encounters, never too close for comfort. I love when I have my encounters with vessels and beings, but mostly I just see them in broad daylight, really, more so than even in the middle of the night. Although I do go out every night somewhere between 2:30 and 3 o'clock in the morning. I wake up and I go outside. I make sure there are no lights on around either my property down in Florida or
Mhm.
this house here in Georgia. No outside lights, for walking the dogs or anything. I just go out where it's as dark as it could be and I just watch. And sometimes I just feel their presence. And then sometimes things like a black sky being torn open as though it's a piece of fabric. Stuff like that happens. That
Right.
happened at the farm I was at the farm last Halloween, and that happened. And the only person that I had with me was my assistant, Erin, was with me. And she saw it happen too. And it was the brightest white light I have ever seen. Oh, Candace is with us. Oh, see, I'm not completely blind. I can read that Candace is with us. And it was, and then it closed. It closed as fast as it opened. And I thought, woohoo, this is gonna be a wild night. Who came through that rip in what dimension? And it was, what was that? And I thought, okay, this is gonna be crazy. And then we got closer to the barn, I mean to the woodshed that's now the staff area, and we watched a vessel go overhead, and I saw it, Aaron saw it, and a few other people saw it, but there were a lot of people there and not everybody saw it. And I was like, oh, here we go with the not everybody, sees it. And the sky was just filled with stars. I mean, I can understand how it would be difficult, but I'm convinced that they let whoever is ready to see them. Um, because I mean, I've had too many experiences where half the people that I'm with are like, "Oh my God, look at that." And the other half are like, "What? Where? What? Where?" It's they're not ready yet and they know it. And we don't want to. Oh, Frank Robert, hello. Hello, dear. Oh, Frank. He's such a hunk. Oh my God. No, I mean, you don't even know. I put my hands around that man and I just let my fingers feel. I'm sorry. This is just a slight diversion. I'll come back around. But Frank built like a brick shit house. Okay, can I say that on your air?
You
And
can
when
say it. Yes, you can say it.
I just did. And when I put my hands around that man, all I feel is strength and resolve and muscle. And I'm very muscular. I mean, for a 64 years old, 4-year-old, and Frank will attest to this. I do have like strength. I do. I have muscle mass. I never lost it. I don't know any other woman my age, not any other woman my age. Hello from Liverpool. Oh, oh, Liverpool. Oh my God, the Beatles, baby, bring it on, Colette. Um, and yeah, I absorb his energy and his light and his love, but I absorb it through his muscle. I just wanted to say, and that probably came out wrong and didn't sound good to
No,
the
you
average listener. I might want to rephrase, but,
no, you
but
don't. Listen. I got an anchor. I got an anchor and a chain. We can go and we can put it on Frank's leg because I know his head is about that big and he's floating around someplace. So we're all
he's
set with
just he's lovely, and you brought him into my life. You did. So thank you. Thank you for the gift of friend.
whether you needed it or not. I brought him in.
Yes,
But
I know.
he's a great guy, and he's up
Yeah,
at in
he is.
Lockport, New York, for the
Yeah,
Western Block, which is a great location. If anybody
yeah,
ever wants to go out there and hang out, that's a great location. But you know what? You brought up a good point, Andrea. The point is that not everybody can see these things, and it's almost like mediumship. That's the way that I always feel about it, because what I see, all of a sudden maybe you'll have a group of 20. You'll get 10 people that will see a shadow person that will have walked past them,
yeah.
and you'll have 10 people that won't, that have no idea. Now, I often wonder, I took classes with Tom Brown Jr. He's an American mystic and American tracker. And he says that our minds, our modern minds, not the primitive mind, but our modern minds have suppressed so much of what we see, what we hear, and what we experience,
Mm.
that we have to allow ourselves to, it's almost like muscle memory, to allow ourselves to be
Muscles.
able to see that.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Oh, down, girl, down.
No, I'm listening. I'm listening.
But uh, I've noticed even with myself, since I've gone and when I was doing the dogma thing, when I was doing my spiritualist dogma, I was only at one point where it seemed that like I could see only what they allowed me to see. But when
Yeah,
you let go of that and then you
that's
open your
right.
mind a little bit and you start surrounding yourself with people like yourself who have different points of view, who see different things, who experience different things, all of a sudden now you start to see and you start to experience. I will never forget when we were up at Sault Ste. Marie together. We were
God.
outside the very first time. The
Is
very
that
first
the
time
time Zaphis ran away like and screamed like a little girl? Was it
that
that time, or was it Schrader? Which
no,
one?
that was with Johnny. And Johnny goes, the hell with this. I don't want to see this. And he turned around and he walked away. That was a good one. Yeah, but I'll never forget that because it's like first thing, everybody, let me set the stage. Andrea says at a certain time, we're all going out in the parking lot and we are going to do some contact work. Now, all these people go out, we're out in the parking lot, and I'm thinking to myself, ooh, I don't know if this is I don't know what she's gonna do. Hey Andre, you could have done almost anything. And I would have been like, okay, but it's not contact work. You went out there and I remember you were singing, and all of a sudden I was looking at you and you had a different glow about you because you always have a glow about you every time I see you. But it was like weird because it was like I looked up and I remember seeing, and it wasn't just my bad eye. I remember it's almost even my mind's eye. You were like over pixelated, a little different, like energy, like a whole energy shift. And then somebody said, "Look at that!" And in the distance, in the horizon, there looked like a ship. It was there. I remember standing there looking, going, what the hell? And I remember at that point, I thought, well, I am starting to think a little bit different. I've been studying some different things. I've been opening myself up a little bit. I get what she's doing. I get what she's saying because now I'm able to perceive it. And I think a lot of people, they don't see these things. They don't perceive it. And like you said, you can see it during the day. You can see it during the night. It's like spirits, the same thing. Same thing. Energetic beings. You can see them during
I
the
can
day,
see
during
them
the
with
night.
my eyes closed.
Yeah. Yeah. And as
Yeah.
a matter of fact, I just had a shadow person down in my basement do one of these, peek out and say hello, basically, is what
That's
happened. So I always laugh when I see him over there. But this is something that people don't understand, that there's such an overlap, and everything is meshed together.
It
We have the
is.
whole science, not, I won't say science, but the whole belief system of spirituality. We have physicality, we have healing energies, we have all of this that is rolls into one to create the ultimate thinker. That's the way I'm going to say it. The ultimate thinker, no, the ultimate experiencer.
Yeah.
And that allows you, that seems to be the key to opening up everything. And I think we talked about this on your show. Why do you think we're so fractionated when it comes to like metaphysics? You got paranormal slash, you've got metaphysics slash, you've got ufology slash, you've got cryptozoology slash.
It's all
When
one thing. It's
yes,
all one thing.
why do you think
Everything
what?
is one thing. Everything is energy and
Right,
consciousness and existence. And it
right.
doesn't matter what label, what post-it note you peel off and stick to it. It's all one thing. And once you understand that we live not in a three-dimensional, five sensory world, but in a multi-dimensional universe that are
Yes.
all interrelated, interacting. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to see spirits. They're in a different dimension, a different realm, if you were. And every now and then there's an intersection that occurs. And you don't know who you're seeing from what time, but they're in what you're seeing, they are in their time. But case in point, my mother, I'll just, this is a longer story, but I'll abbreviate it. My mother was standing on the hearthstone looking into what had been a completely shut down, dark dining room moments before when I walked through to go get her some food in the kitchen. It's like 11 o'clock at night. She turns around, throws a log on the fireplace. Hi, Carrie. And then she hears laughter over her shoulders. And she turns around, and there's an entire family who are eating dinner together in our dining room. They have pewter steins, indicative of the 1700s, being that pewter was outlawed for tableware because of the lead content in the 1800s. So there's a
Hmm.
woman standing cooking a pot of stew over the fireplace that had been shut and sealed shut for more than 100 years when we bought the place. She's cooking over that fireplace with a big centered chimney. She's got kids running around the room. Two men are sitting on the other side of the table, a table not our own, a hand hewn oak table with two long benches. And she uses a piece of cast iron to lift the stew off and put it on the table to serve dinner and tells the children to take their place. And my mother is standing there like, am I even
Hmm.
seeing this? And one of the men turned his head and looked into the parlor and made eye contact with my mother. And he nudged the man sitting beside him and pointed her out. And she was the ghost to them. They were seeing into the future as she was simultaneously peering into the past. And she had one of these moments, like she got it. She finally understood that everything is one thing and that there are certain places. I always called, my childhood home a farmhouse, or a portal cleverly disguised as a
Hmm.
farmhouse. It's got that kind of swirling vortex energy around it. I mean, the house like literally trembles sometimes. I was talking to a group that was touring through it last night, and they're like, Andrea, is it weird that the floors would be vibrating under our feet? We all feel it. And I'm like, no, that's actually what happens. And it's interacting with your energy. It was a group of 4 or 5 women, and they were bringing in all their best intentions and very spiritually grounded people, and they made contact almost immediately. Now, and other people will go in there and they're looking to provoke, they're looking to be disrespectful, they're looking to take advantage, and they won't get anything. So and that's fine because the spirits know what their intention is. And so they're not going to play nice with those that didn't come to play nice with them. And it's an interaction, it's conscious contact.
Hmm.
And it has been made for many decades. I mean, I lived in that house 50 years ago, Frank. Say Frank, say. And there is just something absolutely magical and mystical and scientific about what's going on there, because the truth of the matter is that magic is science we don't yet understand, and the safest assumption that any of us can make is that we know nothing compared
Hmm.
with what there is to know. Nothing. And probably our best course of action is to plod on and to carry on and to move forward. Time is not linear. You're absolutely right, Rick. It's not. It's a swirling, congealing mass of everything and nothingness all together. Time is a human machination, and the proof of that is that every 4 years we have to adjust it a little bit to make it work with leap
Yes.
year. So
Yes.
that's proof that we made that stuff up to help us, keep to feel that in a three-dimensional, five sensory realm that we have some security. Because if you say we live in a multi-dimensional universe and a multi-sensory environment, that's too much for most people to take in, to
I
absorb,
agree.
to
Yes.
process, and then to put into action in terms of their own life force and the energy that they bring. Now, I'll tell you, here's a case in point, real quick. Excuse me. Allergy season in Georgia.
Allergy
Yeah.
season in Western New York too.
Oh, it is not yet. It's still the frickin' frozen tundra, and you know it. Um, I saw pictures from Upper Michigan today. All right, I
Yes.
saw pictures, proof of snow on the ground.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. They got hit. They got hit
they
up
did
there.
get hit. The Upper Peninsula particularly hard. Yeah, but I mean, it's Tim and Brad. They'll just go out on their snowmobiles and say, "Hold
Listen,
my
all
beer."
Brad, all he needs a six pack of Blatz, and he's ready to rock and roll.
Right,
He's all
ready to
set.
rock and roll. Fire that baby up. Yep. So the messages that I've gotten have become more and more
Hmm.
profound. That was my mother's epiphany, seeing that family. The thing that was interesting, one of the things that I find most interesting about that story is that I had made beef stew for dinner. My mother wasn't feeling well that night. She was in bed sleeping. I made beef stew for my sisters. My father was out of town. And stuck it in the fridge. And when mom got up about maybe 10:30 or 11, I was doing my homework in the parlor, and she was hungry and asked if I would make her something to eat, which I was delighted to do because she was kind of wasting away. It had been a difficult time at the house for her. And interestingly, it was beef stew that the mistress of the house was serving to her family in our dining room. And I have to wonder if that little thing that happened in common had had been what triggered that experience for my mother to see one of the original family that
Hmm.
built and lived in that farm, to have that window, that peek into their life, because she made beef stew and I made beef stew. And what if I had been her in a previous life? What if I had been her in a previous life? I saw a woman on the hearthstone when I was 17 years old who was the mirror image reflection of me at this age, except she had longer gray hair and it was up in a bun and a beautiful long dress with big leg of mutton sleeves. And she smiled at me
Hmm.
and I smiled back. And then I never told anybody. Everybody in the family saw her, but nobody saw her face. Only I did. And she smiled and I smiled back. And I realized that she was a spinning image reflection of what I thought I would probably look like as an older woman. And I didn't tell my mother until we left the farm, because I did not want her to feel that we were caught in a spiral a reincarnation kind of thing.
Yes.
Like we were going to have to live in that house for all eternity until that house either fell to the ground or went up in flames or something, that we were going to have an attachment to that farm that was permanent and perpetual, but had nothing actually to do with time as we know it. It
Well,
was,
let's face it. You know, we've discussed this 100 times. Right person, right place at the right time.
yeah,
Energetically, if it is in sync, it's going to happen. You're going to open that, for a lack of a better term, that little portal, uh, and you're going to go and you're going to be able to repeat it. People don't realize that when you go and you go out of your way to try to repeat something that has happened. You try to do it, it doesn't work. But if you do it in a natural, easy way, and you just actually go through the motions, sometimes that's enough just to trigger that. And that's what they used to remember. They used to call that blips in time. Do you remember that
yeah.
when we used to all go and dress up and we would try to replicate something that was going on at a
Well, the
location?
college that I went to, that was called the Butch Femme Annual Party, is what it was, because it was a woman's college. So, half of us got to dress up as men and half as women, and then pick a period, pick an era, pick an outfit. And it was like a really big deal, but no men allowed.
Damn it. That's
I
that's
know.
see, that's
I
why
know.
we get along so well, because you're just making up for lost time to hang out with me and Frank. That's all.
I
That's the way
am.
that
I
works.
am. Well, that's the thing. It's like it was our own fantasy land. It was just great. We could be whatever character we wanted to be from history, and it happened every year, and nobody outside of the campus knew it. It was a big secret. It was great. But I digress again,
This
as usual.
Everybody has to know, when Andrea and I and Johnny Zaffis, we sit down and we talk.
And
You
laugh
need
ourselves sick.
we pee ourselves. We laugh so hard. That's the
You
problem.
have to come prepared for these things, Tim. I told you.
I
They
wear
make them
Depends now
your
when
size. It depends on, yeah, if they make it.
Well, you know what? Wait a minute. Let me get us back on track here. Andre, I know it's almost impossible. People just don't realize what
They
happens
don't.
when we all get together.
I know.
You know, one of the big things that a lot of people have asked me when we talk about interdimensional stuff, the possibilities of reincarnation or the fractionated soul, and pieces that soul kind of fit into to create a new soul, but the energetic feel is still there,
Yeah.
and you get that right place, right person. A lot of people don't realize that when we go and when we pass on, that's all we are, is energy.
Yeah.
We are, and what is memory? Memory is energy. What is thought? Thought is energy and frequency.
Yeah.
What do you think is interdimensional? It's all energy, frequency. And I have to ask you this one. There's two questions that come up immediately whenever I think about this. Now, the very first one is this: can anybody train themselves? I feel yes, but I want your opinion on there. Can any excuse me, can
Nothing like leading the witness, though. No, no.
not that I've been in court a lot, but that's the way it works. I think I'll blame that on Johnny. Johnny taught me that. That's the way
Yeah,
it
he does.
when
That's
it
one of his little tricks of the trade. Yeah.
but when can you go and can you train yourself to get into that mindset in order to go to push yourself to that point where you become a paranormal survivor, paranormal experiencer, a galactic experiencer? Is it possible to do this?
I would have to say for me, no, that's not how it happened.
Hmm.
Um, I think that you can hone your skills once you identify them,
Yes.
and once they've kind of been activated. But I didn't have any choice in the matter with what happened to me at 13 years old.
Right.
What I saw changed everything, my entire perception of life as I knew it. I suddenly, within a moment, realized that we were absolutely not alone in the universe.
Mhm.
A flotilla of vessels that went over directly over the farmhouse. And I was the only one outside with four little sisters and a slew of friends. And I'm the only one standing in the front yard. And to see this, it went over approximately the heads of approximately 60 million people. And there were less than, I believe it was 100 or 10,000 reports worldwide
Wow.
of
Wow.
everywhere that this flotilla of ship went and made a spin. It hopped across from Maryland to the UK, made a spin around Western Europe. When the fighter jets were scrambled in England to go up after it, it disappeared in a split second off the radar over the um, the North Pole, and this is documented. Um, but 60 million people should have seen it. 10,000 people reported it. If you extrapolate that out, that means only 10,000 of us were supposed to see it, or nobody else was paying attention, and you couldn't fail to pay attention to it. It was so massive that it blocked out the sun. It cast a shadow on the earth. It silenced all of nature around me. Even the birds went silent. So either I was in kind of a bubble that had to do with my
Mhm.
interaction with these beings as they passed slowly over the farm, so slowly that had they been anything that we had manufactured, they would have just simply tumbled out of the sky. Um, I knew from I had just turned 13, and it was, people say, did you have traumatic events at the farm? Yes. The night of the seance where I thought I saw my mother die, that's right at the top of the list. But what I saw float over that house, and then not remembering how I got in the house and standing in the kitchen with my mother pulling the glaze curtains back and looking, and her asking me what I was looking for. And I didn't answer her because I didn't know how to describe what I had just seen. But it changed everything. And from that point on, I realized that there was something about that house and that area but that our family was there, that we were supposed to be there, if that makes any sense at all
Makes
to
perfect
anybody. It
sense.
does to me.
Perfect sense.
But that we were supposed to be there. We were supposed to have these experiences. We had numerous experiences in the house that, in retrospect, upon reflection, I think were probably extraterrestrial and not supernatural, paranormal in the conventional sense of that word, including a tube of blue light that came right down our chimney, turned a 90-degree angle, and went out across the floor between my sisters without ever moving through them. Good morning, Mandy. Mwah. Oh my God, I love your drawing of the extraterrestrial. Oh my God, honey, I'll call
Mhm.
you. That was wonderful. Um, and then retracted and then went back up. And everybody saw this happen. It happened 3 times. My sisters were playing parcheesi on the floor in front of the fireplace. It came directly across the room. It went into one of my mother's books one time and into her, and then retracted and went up. And when it came down, it put the fire out in the fireplace. And when it went back up, the fire started up again. Okay, that is not normal. That is paranormal. That is
I
not
agree.
natural.
I
Light
ag
doesn't bend. That was something else. Light doesn't bend as far as we know it. But that happened 3 times in the course of time that we were there. And I can't attribute that to, a ghost or a spirit or anything like that. To me, that was something else entirely. And let me just tell you something. I got very, very upset. I know we're running out of time, but I really feel that I must tell you this.
Hmm.
On February 24th of 2022, I was sitting on the terrace at my house in Florida, and I had incredible. I'm sorry, not no. Did I say February? Did I say February 24th,
Yes.
2022? Okay. And since the previous November, I had been, hello, Joe. I love him. Um, I had been incredibly anxiety ridden. Just, I don't know how I got through Christmas and New Year's and, and with my family. I mean, I was like in a constant hand wringing mode, like something horrible, horrible, horrible was about to befall humanity. And that morning, I sat outside and I just rocked in a completely stationary chair. I just rocked. And I said, I know it's coming. I know it's bad. If there was ever a time for you to get down here and intervene on our behalf, it is now. The time is now. Please don't leave us to our own devices. Now is the time. And I got back the clearest, most concise message that I have ever received in my whole life. And I have been a contactee for more than 50 years. If we are here, this planet and its people are in crisis. We are here.
Now, I
And
believe.
hours later, the bombs started flying from Russia into Ukraine. Last year, I didn't mean to interrupt, honey. Just
No, go
give me
ahead.
1 minute.
Please. Please.
This past February, um, after I had, gone through all the pain and the tumult of seeing this incredible destruction and hatefulness and scorched earth policy in a country that was peaceful and was not, creating any kind of provocation at all. I mean, it's been a very difficult year plus for me personally, dealing with what's happening there and in many other places in the world, but particularly in Ukraine. And this past February 24th of 2023, I woke up early and I opened up my phone and it went right to my news feed. And there was the tape of Volodymyr Zelensky's speech to his people marking the 1 year anniversary.
Hmm.
And he ended his very moving, truly deeply emotional, significant speech to his nation and to the world with 3 words: we are here. I don't believe in coincidence.
No, not at all. Not at all. And I'm going to tell you something. I do believe that they are trying to influence
Mhm.
for peace. I really am. I do. I
But they
personally
can't
believe
do
that.
it for us, honey.
Exactly. We've got to be able to do it. They've got to be, they're trying to go and they're trying to put those thoughts in our minds. But you're not going to be able to put a thought like that into a mind that is diseased.
Yeah.
And that by diseased, I'm saying, full of hate.
Corrosive. A plague
Exactly.
upon the planet, pestilence
Exactly.
on the earth.
Exactly.
Evil exists in the world, and we are seeing evil in action, and we always have.
Agreed.
And
Yes.
it can't be that we always will. We live in duality, good and evil, and darkness and light, and that conflict is omnipresent like God. But light always vanquishes the darkness. Always. There is never a reason to give up hope. Not ever is there a reason to give up hope. And I believe that thoughts are things. And if we focus our energy and our attention on our superpower, hello, darling, um, which is love, they cannot save us from ourselves. They are so disappointed in so many of us, but they know there is hope because so many of us lead with light. Yes, we do. We lead with
Yes.
light and we lead with love and we set a good example and we bring an energy that is incalculable, it's immeasurable, but it's real. And we raise the vibration of a planet that is woefully stuck in its past. At the end of World War II, we said never again, and we were supposed to mean it. And the UN put the USSR and now Russia on the Security Council. And now they are the greatest disruptors on the planet, but not they. One man, one man. And I think one of the lessons that we need to learn is that, first of all, men should not be in charge of anything. I think that's first and foremost. Your track record sucks throughout the course of history. Now, there was Queen Elizabeth I, and she was a bitch from hell. And she was the one that, I mean, what she did with the so called witches. Do your research, read your history, and you'll be so appalled. You'll think what Putin's doing right now is child's play compared to what she did. So I'm not
Hmm.
saying all men are evil. Not by, I love men. Oh my God, I love you. Oh my God, I love Frank. I love Tenny. I love Zaffis. Don't tell him. I love Chip Coffee. I'm telling you, I love men. If you guys could run the world, I would be okay with that. I would be okay with that. But here's the thing, women bring an energy to this. We are the nurturers, we are those that feed, we are those that raise the young, that bring them into the world and raise them and do everything in our power to protect them. And then that counter juxtaposition are the evil men in this world who think it's okay to just destroy everything in their path. Everything in their path. I just came back from Scotland last summer. What I learned about the history of my own heritage is enough. It's mind blowing how brutal man's inhumanity to man and woman and child is mind boggling. We have to stop. We have to stop destroying everything that we create. And so, if thoughts are things, and we focus our best intentions in our thoughts, and we hold that thought every day, and we put that energy out into the universe, then we can and we will raise the vibration of this planet. And in concert with our galactic family, we will make a quantum leap into the fourth, into the fifth dimension, and beyond. And we are right on the precipice of that happening. And the more of us that invite them into our world with no fear, because there is nothing to fear. If they wanted to have us for lunch, they could have done it millennia ago. They love us. They love us. I have received those same messages over and over and over again, but they cannot save us from ourselves. We are the little baby chicks that have to peck our way out of our own shell so that we can leave our three-dimensional realm that we think is our reality and look at our old reality with new eyes. When we peck our way out of that shell and we see the universe around us and we realize just how small we are and just how significant a life force we are, because it is all one in the same. And so ultimately, what it comes down to is looking at our old reality with new eyes, opening the third eye, which is blind in most people because it is the only way that they can deal with this complicated existence and the complicated human beings that salt and pepper and spice up this world. And it's the only way that we are going to rise above our own proclivities, our own ancient, dark ages ambitions to own this, to take that, to there are no borders. You go out into space and you look at this planet and tell me where the wall is. Well, you can see the Great Wall of China from space, but that's like literally it. we've got some lessons to learn, and we're not learning them
Many
fast
lessons.
enough. We're
Many
not
lessons.
learning them fast enough. Let's
Candace,
go, let's go, let's go. And that is why you had me on your show. So I could stir them up, so I could get them riled, so I could speak my truth. And those that tap into this and listen to this, like Candace, who is in Soul School Sojourn every single week,
mhm,
we have lessons to learn, and we live in a realm where the test always precedes the lesson, not the other way around, like, parochial school. You have to go through this test, and we are right on the precipice now.
exactly.
We are right there.
Exactly. Candace wants wanted me to ask you about the AARO commission.
I wouldn't have a thing to do with it, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Not a thing to do with it, because all that was released to them to
Yeah.
study was the unclassified material. And you know what I say to that? You know what? Here's your folder back. Okay, this is an all or nothing proposition. Do not fuck with. Oh, I said it. I knew I was going to try not to say it. Okay, do
It's
not-
okay. You can say
you know,
that's why we're the lounge. We're over
me, you
we're over
know,
21.
okay, good. I'm so glad. Because really, if I was in the right mood, I would have just thrown it back at them and said, you know what? You go eat your Mary Janes. You go read your own material. I want to see everything that is classified. If it's classified for a reason. If you don't
Reason.
trust me, why am I
Exactly.
sitting at this table?
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And people and you know what? They think that by giving you breadcrumbs, they think that you're going to be complacent,
Yeah,
and that's bullshit because we are not a
it is.
complacent. There, many of us are not in a complacent society. Unfortunately, we're in the well. Right now, we're in the minority.
Yeah,
The pablum-fed people out there, they are in the majority right now.
yeah.
And the one thing that I always loved, there's one of my favorite comedians was always George Carlin. And
Yes.
the
Oh my
reason
God, I
why,
love
because
him.
George Carlin asked questions, they were uncomfortable, and he became a mirror on society. And that's why we need to do the same thing. We need to do the exact same thing, get more people out there that actually care and get riled up about it. And only then are we going to be able to see the truth. Only then are we going to be able to understand that love and respect will equal unity across the
Yes.
world. And that's what people are missing because we are taught to be individual. We're just taught to be like these little fractions of a whole. And
Hmm.
that's not right. We have to be individual, but we also have to think of the bigger picture. We have to gestalt the entire bigger
Yeah.
picture. And
Yeah.
people are not thought to critically think like that. People are not taught to go and be able to compare and to weigh and have that balance and understand and look beyond their own computer screens or their, let's face it, or their own phones.
Yeah.
If it's on the phone, it's got to be true, right? It's got to be
Yeah.
true.
Right.
And
Right.
that's and
Link
that's where
fell off
we
his lap.
fall short. We
Yeah.
fall short
I know.
every time. My dear,
I know.
we
I
got a
know.
couple minutes, and I hate this. I absolutely hate this because I love your takes on everything. You got to understand. We will sit there at a lunch. We'll have lunch together, and Andrea will just start up, and I just put my fork down. I just put my fork down because I don't want to go and miss anything she's saying. Because I sit there and sometimes I think to myself, how come I didn't think that? How come I didn't see that? But Andrea brings a lot of clarity to a lot of what we really should be doing and opening our own minds to the every possibility that's out there. And again, everything is interconnected, and people don't understand that. Andrea. Of course, Andrea is going to come back, you know,
Anytime.
because
Anytime.
Andrea, because she knows that that we all love Andrea. That's just the way it is. And we've spent many a sordid evening in the Detroit airport together. We will not go into that at
Dancing
all.
to our own music, and we didn't care who was watching. We got a little applause, as I recall, one time. We did.
Yes, we did.
We
Yes,
were
we
pretty good.
did.
I'm bleeding though. I know. I'm a take charge kind of girl.
Yes, you are. tell everybody where you're going to be, what's going on in the wildlife of Andrea Perron. The She's a myth, or myth. She's a true legend. She's the true legend.
I'm
She's a
just
myth, like she's a mythological creature. That's the way I should have said it. She's a true mythological creature. She
You know
is
what
like
my unicorn is, and I've got him right out and back at the barn. He doesn't eat anything. He's great. He just, but I see him. Nobody else does. Okay, so here's the deal. Let me get my real paper calendar because I am so old school. I am going to be at the Parapsychon at the Mansfield, the Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield, Ohio, on the 19th and the 20th of May. And so anybody that can come join us, it is a rockin' good event. It's an
yes, it is.
excellent event and
Yes,
an
it is.
amazing building. I was there for the first time last year, and Lenny, my everything woman, and her husband Jeff are going to pick me up at the airport, drive me out there, and then drive me back 2 days because I have to get back to Atlanta early. So I'm only going to be there for Friday and Saturday. I will have to leave at the crack of dawn on Sunday. But if you can come, just get a day ticket. I mean, just come, and I
Yeah,
promise
it's
to share some wonderful
phenomenal.
stories with everybody.
It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal location, phenomenal people,
Yeah.
and the one and only, the heartthrob of the paranormal world, the lady who makes all things right just by walking through, Andrea Perron. Andrea, stay on the line so I can thank you properly off the air. Thank you again, my love. I miss you so much. You know what? We'll see each other in August. So
Yes,
that's
we will.
even if and you know what, Andrea. Oh,
This
is
Princess
it?
Peanut Buttercup.
Oh, there's little princess.
Apple of
Princess.
my eye and center of my universe right
Oh,
here.
I don't know what your dad is doing with is how he's surviving without Princess being there.
I don't either.
You
I put
know,
her on speakerphone every day. That helps.
I think so. I think so. Andrea, stay on the line. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Love you, kid. Love you, kid,
Love
so
you
much.
all. Thank you for listening.
Andrea is amazing. She's probably one of the most amazing people that I know. I have learned so much in the decade that I've known her. And most of it is just by sitting down and listening. And unfortunately, that's the problem with a lot of people. And I know myself, I'm very opinionated, as you guys already know by now. But sometimes you have to take that time just to sit and listen, because by listening, we learn. Whether we agree, we disagree, we learn. And that's the most important thing that we should go and take away from this little conversation that we've had tonight. This is Tim Shaw. You've been listening to Black Cat Lounge. Thank you so much for hanging out. Love you guys. Ciao, babies. See you next week. Bye-bye.
All set. Perfect timing.